I had an OkCupid account for a few years. I would occasionally get on there, mostly when drunk, and message people or check and see if I had messages. One day, this decent enough looking girl messaged me, and we got to talking. It was just the usual get to know you kind of stuff, like what do you do for a living and what are your hobbies, etc. I told the girl that I worked the night shift at the local Walmart, and at the time it didn't seem that giving her this kind of info would backfire in any way, but I was wrong. We continued messaging for a few days, getting to know each other. She was a school teacher and was a bit older than me. Being that I had a minimum wage job, I didn't really see much of a future there between us, and our conversations were growing a bit stale, so me being the jerk I am, decided that the best course of action would be to just stop talking to her completely instead of telling her I wasn't interested. A few days go by, and she messaged me a few times, but I again, being a jerk, did not reply. Then I started to get messages that were a bit hostile, asking me why I wasn't talking to her and why I didn't want to be her friend and things like that. So I decided to continue ignoring her like the good person that I am. A few more days go by, and one night at about 2 a.m. while I'm working, a coworker comes up to me and says that some girl was asking for me. At the time, I didn't put two and two together, so I just shrugged it off. Then the following few work nights, my coworkers kept telling me that this girl is coming in looking for me. How she didn't find me by just walking around the store, I don't know. But I finally remember that I had told this girl where I worked. Then the next night, she finds me. She had come in with a guy and confronted me about ignoring her on OkCupid. She wasn't being hostile or anything when she asked, so I just told her that I had been busy and really hadn't been on in a while. So awkwardly, she said, "Well, okay, just message me when you get home." At this point, I was a bit freaked out, but I stuck to my ways and did not message her, hoping that she would just leave me alone. But, of course, this only made things worse. She started showing up looking for me on my days off, asking my coworkers what my schedule was and things like that. The next time I had work, she was there at around 3 a.m., again with a random guy that was different than the last, and again asking me why I had not messaged her. But this time, she was a bit more hostile, saying, "What kind of person does this to someone?" and things like that. But I told her the same thing again, that I had been busy and had not gotten on the website in a while. And then, as always, I continued to ignore her messages. After a few times of hearing that she had shown up looking for me again, and me being afraid of getting stabbed to death by this crazy chick in the parking lot, it finally stopped. She stopped coming to my work and stopped messaging me. In the end, all my hard work and perseverance paid off, and she moved on to stalking someone new. Moral of the story: ignore your problems and they will eventually disappear. It wasn't Tinder, but a different app. I went out on a date with this woman. We went to a restaurant to have dinner. She seemed a little spacey, a low talker, kind of pretty, but a little disconnected with reality. We have a nice conversation that I can barely hear. By the end of the date, usually people do a hug or say, "We should do this again sometime." She just walked away, then walked back as if she remembered that's generally common human courtesy to do some kind of goodbye. Kind of weird. I should have ended it there. So I go out with her again. We go to see the movie Annihilation about the scientists who explore an alien landing site. Partway through the movie, she starts freaking out and covering her eyes. This movie isn't even that scary. Afterwards, we go to the movie theater bar where she needs to take time processing all the visuals she just saw. She's still kind of freaking out, but we get to talking. She shows me a reservation she made for the weekend. I look at it. It's not the name she used on her dating profile, and come to think of it, she never mentioned anything of that before, and it was a bit weird. I probably should have ended it there. I go out with her again. We make plans. I'm going to pick her up at her place and we're going to get Thai food. I get there. She texts me, "I'm just finishing up my coffee. Come on in." She lives on some off street with no road, like one of those alleyway streets with only walking access. She lets me in at the gate. Looking at the apartment in front, which is completely empty, wood floors, figure this is a nice place. I knock on the door. She opens, and her giant dog that's like 100 pounds walks over to greet us. Now the dog does nothing wrong, just walks over. She looks at the dog, snaps her fingers, and stares at it. She has this dog under her control, on a dime. Oh, good boy. Now, normally dog owners do crap like that to assert dominance, but this seemed a little more controlling than usual. Well, anyways, we tour her place, and by the way, she's not finishing her coffee. She just poured it, and I'm itching to get food. Would you like some coffee? No, I want to get that Thai food. Anyway, her place is nice, furnished, sweet kitchen with pots, pans, full knife set, and utensils. She's living pretty sweet. She's a psychiatrist who does at-home consultations, so I see pill bottles all over the table. We sit down, and she's sipping this coffee. Maybe 15-20 minutes later, her roommate comes from downstairs, who also shares the same name as me. He's kind of a large gamer dude. He goes to the kitchen, goes back upstairs, and comes down with a black roll. Only 2 people carry these, chefs and assassins. I know what it is immediately, and I start to freak out. It's a set of knives. Remember, the kitchen already had a sweet knife set. I don't know what the hell is going on, but maybe he's a chef. Nope. He rolls it out and starts sharpening it on a metal stick, looking at me in the eye. I'm thinking a chef would use a whetstone if they really gave a crap about their knives. I look to her. She's cool as a cucumber, as if nothing weird is happening. He goes to the kitchen to cut his vegetables. I see him cut onion from the bottom, and I'm like, that guy has no clue what he's doing. I gotta get out of here. My hand is on the doorknob at this point. She stands up, goes to the kitchen, and pours herself yet another cup of coffee and sits down. And she asks, "You sure you don't want a cup?" I look at those meds on the table and think, I don't know what you're going to put in that drink, lady. You and your serial killer roommate, and I'm practically crapping my pants for another 20 minutes. We finally go to the Thai restaurant where 3 seats down from me was a girl I went out with a few months ago who I was into but who also totally ghosted me. Blue hair this time around, and she seemed pretty bored on her date. Anyway, my date tells me about her divorce, her being new to town, her living situation, how her roommate was a recovering meth addict that she met, who she let live in her place while he figured his life out. A lot of the weirdness she explained was due to her having synesthesia and ADD, hence getting freaked out by all the colorful images at the movie. And things kind of mellowed out, but I can't seem to shake how weird the situation was before. She starts to seem a little more human, but I'm not sure I want to do this, even for the story. I should have ended it there. So I go out with her again. I pick her up, we go to the movie theater. It's one that doesn't let us in if we're 5 minutes late. We go to the bar, she's drinking, and I'm like, well, let's hurry up or they won't let us into the movie. She takes her time. We're 5 minutes late. So we have to wait for the next showing, and at this point, I'm so emotionally guarded, and we're finding that we're not that into each other. We see the movie and grab a bite afterwards, where clearly she also discovers this isn't going anywhere. So she says to me, "So, I do this for a living." Uh-oh, I know it's coming. She's going to psychologically analyze me, and she asks all of these personal questions, and she gets to the core of me in like a minute, and says some things that just hit home and break me to my core. She's good, and I'm internally just destroyed and a complete mess. She's cool as a cucumber. We go outside. She's trying to get an emotional rise out of me, considering I was very emotionally guarded around her before due to the whole fear of death thing, and it's working. We go back to her place, and I'm a mess. Nothing physical has happened at this point, and I'm debating whether I should try and make a move or see if she wants to do anything, but also I know it's over. I watch her with her dog, and she's got full dominance over her dog, and I realize I'm exactly like that dog, and here I am, broken emotionally, under her spell, weak, terrified, and insecure. I look at the chair behind me, and on it are 2 knives laid out perfectly, on a living room chair. I got the F out of there. I walk past their empty apartment up front and think, that's not an empty apartment for rent, that's the staging ground. The whole walk back, I'm thinking how no one will easily find me on this offshoot road. I can't even get to the road fast enough if I needed to, and I was terrified. I was not doing this crap anymore for the story. Later, a friend explained that more than likely she was just weird and her roommate was trying to scare me off. If she started to get close to me and I started putting any disparaging thoughts about her roomie into her head, he might lose that meal ticket, which made the most sense. But man, that one might top them for me. This is not my story, but my cousin connected with a popular girl from high school many years after the fact through social media. She's all he ever talked about back then, and she pretty much never even knew he existed. So when he told me they finally connected, I initially was super excited for him. Anyway, after a few months of talking to Lisa, long distance, she lived about 3 hours away. They were scheduled to spend the weekend together and to go apartment hunting together. Yes, they had planned to move in together and start a new chapter. My cousin even turned down a promotion opportunity in a new city to make things work with her. As he set off to go pick her up, he called me and was the happiest I had ever heard him. On the way back from picking her up, my husband and I had plans to meet them for happy hour. A couple hours later, I noticed multiple missed phone calls from him. I finally call back, and he's not picking up, just texting back that he's a little worried and is creeped out. Super confused, I'm trying to get the story out of him, but his responses are few and far in between. Finally, he calls me from a gas station bathroom to say she's not the girl he thought he was talking to. She was not Lisa, but instead was Mary, another girl we also went to high school with. When he goes to pick her up, she casually strolls to the car and greets him and makes no reference to the fact that she's a totally different person. He was so creeped out that he didn't say anything to her, and they continued on with the afternoon. She carried on as if nothing was amiss. Not to mention, she had been using Lisa's photos, Lisa's life story, but was now also going by the name Lisa. It was so bizarre. The saddest thing is, he really enjoyed this girl's company, and they had actually hit it off before meeting up. He said she also was really good looking and looked even better than he had remembered. He spent the day with her and then told her he had been called into work for an emergency. He dropped her off and immediately blocked her on everything, deleted his social media, and eventually relocated the next month with work. This is still a touchy subject for him, so I don't bring it up, but I do know that he eventually ran into someone who was in touch with the real Lisa, and she was happily married and living in another state. We never will know what this girl's endgame was. My cousin was super depressed about this for months. 20-ish years ago when I was in college, I matched with a cute girl on Match.com. We exchanged messages over a week or two, and she seemed great and nice and definitely worth seeing if things worked out. We set up a first date, and it was the worst first date I've ever had. We met up at the restaurant, and she was 40 minutes late, 8 inches shorter, and at least 50 pounds heavier than her profile. She said she was 5'9" and looked fit, and was actually 5'1" and like 180 pounds, and a smoker. So the date almost ended right there. But hey, I'm a glutton for punishment, or was too naive to just walk away. So we sat down and ordered drinks and food. She immediately ordered several drinks and picked like 2 apps and the most expensive thing on the menu. We never discussed who was paying, but she clearly was assuming I was going to. She quickly drank 2 to 3 drinks in like 5 minutes and ordered more, and then the weirdness started coming out. She complimented my looks a lot, but in really creepy ways. For context, I'm a big, tall, Scandinavian-looking guy with almost blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm 6'6". She kept complimenting my features, telling me we'd have the cutest babies and that her family would love my Aryan features or blood. She then went on a too loud of a rant about interracial marriage while pointedly staring at an interracial couple a few tables away. I must have been like a deer in the headlights because I was so uncomfortable, but didn't quite wrap my brain around what was happening. After she downed 3 to 4 drinks and ranted for 10 to 15 minutes, she said she had to go to the restroom, and as soon as she was away from the table, I frantically looked around for the waitress and flagged her over. She was the real hero here. As soon as she got to the table, I started to explain what was going on, and she just winked and said, "Here's your check, and if you want to follow me to the bar, I have your food wrapped up in a to-go container." So I quickly dropped cash with a big tip and got the heck out of there. When I got home, I opened my food and saw my waitress had left me a note with her number saying she got off work at 10 p.m. if I wanted to have a better first date. She was very attractive, so, well, of course. So I went on that date and found out what happened. Apparently, Creepy Girl didn't bring any money and had a total meltdown and had to have the police called on her, where she was cited for attempted dine and dash, and her dad had to drive an hour into town to pay her bill so she could go home without being arrested. The whole time she was totally losing control. She messaged me on Match, email, and text for like months after that about how I broke her heart and she thought we'd be together forever. I was dating this woman on Plenty of Fish, and she was nice and all, but that's where it stopped. We met up for a coffee date, and she asked if I had any hobbies. She then spoke about her hobbies, which just so happened to be taxidermy beavers. And I was like, okay, cool. Then she said, "Want to see pictures?" And then she was showing me almost 200 plus pictures on her phone of stuffed beavers, and each one has a name. She traps and kills and stuffs beavers. I sipped my coffee real slowly, trying to figure out an exit strategy. I was quickly getting bored after she kept showing me more and more pictures. So I ordered us some food to distract her so she would just stop showing me those damn pictures. It didn't stop. We ate and she was talking about the tanning process and how to kill beavers correctly and how happy it makes her stuffing them. Thankfully, after we ate, we both separated and went home, and I was thankful it was over. Far from it. She then kept on shooting me images of stuffed beavers when I was trying to sleep. Then I turned off my light, and that's when it became super creepy. She sent a text message. "Oh, going to bed early? You turned off your lights already." The stuffed beaver chick was waiting outside my house. What the... I locked the doors and slept with a baseball bat near my bed. She stalked me for 2 months after this date and got super pissed if she seen me hanging around female friends, and it got to the point I moved out and moved pretty far away.